welcome back to Max Reaction. Hopefully you're having a good day. I'm having a decent day. We're gonna react to a video called What If the Philippines Was Never Liberated from Japan in World War II? That's a scary thought for me because back then the Imperial Japanese military, they were some cruel people. Kamikazes, and they just didn't care for human life at all, period. I guess you could say the same for when the United States dropped a nuke on a couple of their cities, but the war had to end somehow, and that's how we ended it. So I don't know what would happen, but the world would probably be a much darker place. Japan would be a wholly different kind of place. So would the Philippines, and even the United States. So let's see what this video has to say about it. Let's see if we agree.
Ago, the United States of America liberated us from the tyrannical rule of the Imperial Japanese Army.
I'd have to say help liberated, because there was plenty of Filipinos fighting alongside the United States. So I don't like how he said liberated the Philippines, because it took a team effort.
Many Filipino soldiers and American soldiers lost their lives fighting off the cruel Japanese army and liberating the Philippines from them. But in this alternate scenario, what will happen if the Americans fail to liberate us from the Japanese army in World War II? What will the Philippines look like today if that happened? In this episode of Pilipinas Facts TV, we will find out what will happen if we were not liberated from Japan in World War II.
Be a lot of Japanese living there, Japanese Filipino.
Here is the short answer. It will not matter, because even if the Americans deployed in the Philippines fail to defeat the Japanese army, the United States of America will just send more soldiers and tanks in the Philippines and eventually defeat the Japanese army.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know. You know, clearing the Japanese from the Philippines was a vital thing right there, you know. Definitely if the Philippines wasn't liberated, a lot more people would die at the very least, and we definitely didn't want that happening.
But if you want the longer answer, here it is. Now, as I said, even if the Americans failed to fight off the Japanese army in the Philippines, the Americans will just send more soldiers to fight off the Japanese army. The US Army, compared to the Japanese army, had better equipment, better guns, better tanks, better planes, and more soldiers. So no matter how hard the Japanese army tries, they will not be able to fight off the Americans.
I really don't agree with that. I don't agree with that at all. Because if a lot of the United States Navy, if they would have failed, and there's a good chance they could have, if you watched in some of my other videos, the person over the Navy of the Japan made a couple crucial mistakes to where they could have taken advantage. I don't agree with this video at all, to be honest. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you do agree with it. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me in the comment section.
Yes, it is true that the Japanese soldiers had this mentality to fight to the death and never retreat or surrender. But unfortunately for them, that is not enough to defeat the Americans. Also, one important thing to note is that when the Allied forces, such as the Americans, Soviet Russians, Britain, and several others defeated Nazi Germany in 1945, all of them were planning to invade mainland Japan. Also, another thing to note is that after fighting Nazi Germany, the US Army still had 9 million soldiers left to invade Japan, and Soviet Russia had over 20+ million soldiers left to invade Japan.
That's a lot.
And Japan only had 5 million trained soldiers left during 1945. So there's no way that Japan will be able to keep the Philippines in World War II.
I don't know. I just don't agree with that. You know, a lot of strategy to it. We can just look at the Philippine soldiers in Korea, the small number of the Philippines. What was that battle? I can't think of it right now. You know what battle I'm talking about. But a small amount of Philippine soldiers defended a bunch of Chinese communist bastards. A lot more. They were like 10, 20, 30 times as many, I think. So, something like that.
So, to summarize what I have said, Japan will not be able to keep the Philippines because they are outnumbered, outgunned, and have to face several different countries. So at the end of the day, we will never be a Japanese territory. Thanks for watching this video.
I don't know, I have a lot of questions with that one. I really do. Would it have been hard for the Japanese to keep hold of the Philippines and defeat the other armies and militaries? Why, hell yes. But never count an old dog out. Never take anything for granted. That's what I've learned in this life. Never take anything for granted. Anyway, you've heard my thoughts. What's your thoughts? What's your reactions? Comment down below. Let me know. I'll see you next time.